Hello, hi, welcome guys, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome again. We will have people joining in soon. Hi, Abhishek, Devendra, welcome. Sarika, hello. Fit Nitin, Abhishek Mahadik, welcome. Hello, everybody. Siddharth, hey Siddharth. Hello.
Good evening.
Hi. Hi, good evening, Devendra. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very good, very good. Thank you. Can you hear me properly? I'm trying
Yes, I
a
can. I
wireless thing
can.
today.
I can.
Okay.
I
Okay,
can.
okay, great. And you're all set. As you look as if you're going to go and play an ODI for India.
I wish I could.
Very nice, very nice, very nice. We'll okay. We are. It's time, but we'll give it another minute or so.
Yes,
Hello,
sure.
Nishant. Hi, Venkat. Hello. Devendra, you can see the names of the viewers as well, right?
Yes,
On
I can.
scrolling up. Okay, okay.
Yes.
Wave, wave, wave. So, before we begin, I have hello, Mahesh. Hi, 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 hi. I have two things that I'm very, very passionate about, and one is obviously cricket. And before anything else, it is cricket. And then as I grew older and I could afford a motorcycle, then motorcycles as well.
Okay.
So we also do a motorcycling program. Just today happened to be there's we coincided actually both programs happening on the same day. So it is a fantastic day for me. I get to talk
Uh-huh.
about two things that I love
Back to
in
back.
this world. Absolutely, absolutely. Hi Nitin, how are you? Good to see you. Okay. Um, how are things, Devendra? How are things? All okay? Around your
All okay.
vicinity,
Just
everything?
waiting for life to return to normalcy, like all of us. We're all in this together. So just
True.
biding time and trying to make the most of whatever free time we have by
So I am,
participating in sessions like
yeah.
this one.
So I'm hoping that once life resumes, you will still come back and be a guest on this
Sure,
session,
of course. I would
right?
love to. Of
Yeah.
course. Of
Okay.
course. Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Let
Very
the
much.
let the lockdown end not mean that we don't do this anymore because I
Of
thoroughly
course not.
enjoyed
We
it.
don't want.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, once again, a very quick introduction. Welcome, Devendra, once again. Thank you so much for obliging us the second time around.
My
Uh, for
pleasure.
those of for those of you who already know Devendra, there is no introduction required. For those of who have not yet had the pleasure of knowing Devendra, he um, from a cricket standpoint, I can't find the right term, but I'll just give a short description. He's done pretty much everything. He is a cricket author. He's an anchor. He's been played a very critical role with the BCCI in terms of the communication, and is currently the head of corporate relations for the International Institute of Sports Management. Um, with all that wealth of knowledge that he has accumulated over the years, Devendra has also given us several gems in the form of books that he has written, biographies of several prominent personalities in the cricketing fraternity. So thank you. I am looking forward to as soon as Amazon decides to get on board, getting copies and starting to read all of the stuff that you have written. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to take advantage of you being here and getting to hear from you some of the stories that you have written for us, and I'm looking forward to reading the books end to end. And I read end to end most of the times because I just can't keep done books. But today Devendra is here to talk about one of the most crucial um, I can say a pivot in terms of the time where Indian cricket history changed and changed for the better. And I can find no better person than Devendra to take us through that. It's the iconic series of India versus Australia in 2001, and everything changed for us. For as a cricketing nation, everything changed for us from there. From being really flashes in the pan brilliance to individuals contributing and taking the team over the line, we became a cohesive, strong unit where everybody participated in some form or the other, whether batting, bowling, fielding, or even captaincy for that matter. So, without any further ado, Devendra, over to you for us to get enthralled by the kissas and the stories that you will share with us while you walk us through this. So, over to you.
Yeah, sure. So, what are our, as cricket lovers, what are our, the most unforgettable moments of the new millennium? So people talk about Saurav taking his shirt off at Lord's. They talk about the 2003 World Cup where we played so well. And there was only one team that could have really beaten us in the finals. And unfortunately for us, we ran into that team in the final. It was Australia. Right. People talk about the historic series win in Pakistan in 2004. And so on. The series win in England in 2007. Of course, there was a disappointment of the World Cup as well. But then the 2020 World Cup, which we won the same year. Then everything leading up to the 2011 World Cup victory at the Wankhede Stadium. Every single performance achievement of Indian cricket, that the Indian cricket team did during those 10 years can be traced back to February, March 2001, which was when the Australians, led by the great Steve Waugh, came to India with about 15 consecutive test victories behind them. And Steve Waugh famously called India the final frontier. He said that, we have beaten every side, and Australia hasn't won a series on Indian soil since 1969-70. So we want to set the record straight. So India is the final frontier. The who's who of Australian cricket was part of that side, whether it was Steve Waugh himself, Ricky Ponting, Adam Gilchrist, Glenn McGrath, Shane Warne, the who's who. The way they started, it was as if the Indians were just there to make up the numbers, just to, a team of 11 needs to play against a side of 11, and that is why they were there. But after losing the first test in Mumbai in less than 3 days, the Indian team did something exceptional in the second test at Kolkata, followed by the last test at Chennai. And I think there would be sufficient reason to say that the 2001 series between India and Australia, played for the Border Gavaskar Trophy, is probably the greatest test series of all time, for the reason being that it revolutionized Indian cricket and set Indian cricket up for the next 10 years. Right. And all that did in the first decade of the new millennium can all be traced back to that victory. Now here you must understand a little bit of the background. Everybody, the world was celebrating the end of the 20th century and the start of the 21st century. But Indian cricket was in very bad shape. In fact, in the very first week of the millennium, we were hammered, routed in Australia. In the third test at Sydney, we lost that test in less than 3 days, and the series was lost 3-0. So we were one of the teams whom the Australians had beaten during the course of those 15 consecutive wins. And we came back to India, and Sachin decided that he had enough of the captaincy. So he declared the series against South Africa at home would be his last as captain. Unfortunately, we lost both the test matches to South Africa at home. So it was a very, very bleak period. And then, of course, in the second week of April 2000, the cricketing world was, blown because of what Hansie Cronje came up with, the confessions, the investigations. Initially, everybody denied, but then the confessions happened, and it was probably the worst ever scandal, controversy that cricket had ever encountered. And many fans, I remember distinctly, were completely disillusioned. They lost faith in the game and in our cricketers. And in fact, I know many people who, like me, were avid cricket lovers. But after that match-fixing controversy, they said that, we're not sure anymore whether what we're witnessing is true, authentic. We really don't know. Yeah. So it was this, we were basically down in the dumps. And it is at this stage that Sourav Ganguly was appointed the captain of India. And nobody really expected anything from the side. When we went to Nairobi to participate in the ICC knockout, the ICC Champions Trophy was at that point of time called the knockout. We didn't expect anything from us. But we first beat Kenya. Then we beat Australia, the reigning world champion, in the quarterfinal. and then we beat South Africa in the semi-final. So that ICC knockout tournament marked, you could say, a comeback of sorts from the depths that we had descended to in the first half of 2000. And we discovered two stars, Yuvraj Singh and Zahir Khan, in that ICC knockout. And that sort of led up to what happened in early 2001 when the Australians came to India. And you must also remember that 2000, the year of 2000, although it was not very memorable because of the match fixing and our losses to Australia and South Africa, between the Australia-South Africa debacles and our resurgence in the ICC knockout in Nairobi, two very significant things happened. Firstly, the National Cricket Academy, the long-awaited National Cricket Academy, which is the finishing school of Indian cricket, it was set up in Bangalore. So finally, right, Indian cricketers had a finishing school to go to for their rehab and other things. And right, the possibility of having a foreign coach, someone who would not have parochialism on his mind, somebody who people felt would provide a fresh perspective. That was also discussed. And in November 2000, we had our first foreign coach in the form of John Wright. So those two significant events happened in the second half of 2000. Then you had, of course, the ICC knockout, and then we were leading up. We played a test series against Zimbabwe. We played a test match against Bangladesh. We won both those series, and everything was then leading up to this series against Australia. Yeah. But there was a cause for concern because somebody called Anil Kumble, our number one most potent match winner, was out of action. He had a shoulder surgery, so he was not available. So what do you do? Playing without Anil Kumble at home, and it was asking for trouble. So who would fill Anil Kumble's shoes? And Saurav had someone in mind, the unlikeliest name that one could ever think of. Here was a guy, an off spinner from the city of Jalandhar, who had played a bit for India. The legality of his bowling action had been questioned, and of course he undertaken some remedial action. And then in the NCA, the National Cricket Academy, there was an issue. There was a disciplinary issue apparently, and he was asked to leave the NCA. He was basically down and out. He had recently lost his father, and he had more or less made up his mind to emigrate to the US to drive trucks.
Wow. Okay.
He was down and out. Saurav Ganguly said to the selectors that I have seen this guy and he can make the ball turn on just about any surface, and I want him in my team. The selectors obviously countered by saying that we have an off-spinner in Sarandeep Singh and he had done well against Zimbabwe. Saurav said, "Oh, nothing doing. I want this guy." And that is how Mr. Harbhajan Singh was picked in the Indian team for that series. Another star, another player, VVS Lakshman, he had made his international debut in 1996. And for about 2 or 3 years, he had been in and out of the side. He had been forced to open the batting in Test cricket. Right. Finally, at the end of the 99-2000 season, he took a decision that, look, I am a middle order batsman. And if you want me to open the innings, I am not available. If you are looking for a middle order batsman, I am there. Right. So he scored a record 1,415 runs in the 99-2000 season of the Ranji Trophy. But he was very clear. He said that if I have to play for India, I will not open the batting. Right. And the selectors finally agreed to pick him in the side for the series against Australia because he was in great form. So that was the story of Harbhajan and Lakshman and how they came into the Indian team for that series against the Australians.
Oh, very interesting. Okay. So VVS Lakshman had actually gone through quite a few failures when he had opened the innings for India when he was initially selected, and he was forced probably to open the innings, isn't it?
Ironically, he had done well because in Australia in 99-2000 in the Sydney Test match, he had scored 167 as an opener, his maiden Test century. Oh, he had done pretty well, but he was not very comfortable. He said that I'm not comfortable opening the batting. I've not done it at any level. So if you want me, I'm available as a middle order batsman. So that is how it all began. I remember the first test at the Wankhede Stadium. I was there at the Wankhede on the first day of the series, and Sir Don Bradman had passed away just 48 hours previously. So the team, observed a minute's silence in memory of the Don. And then the action began. Steve Waugh won the toss, elected to field. And the Indians were in trouble straight away. The Australians made early inroads. Sachin came in and he played the kind of innings that Bradman would have been very proud of. But the Indians were bowled out very cheaply. In response, we reduced Australia to 99 for 5. So it was a critical stage. It was anybody's match at that stage. But then you had Matthew Hayden and Adam Gilchrist coming together and absolutely, destroying the Indian bowling. They just killed us. I mean, the kind of strokes they played, they just annihilated the Indian bowling. And then the Indians could just never come back into the game. And that is how we ended up losing that match at Mumbai in less than 15 days. So suddenly you had a situation where Australia had won 16 test matches in a row, and all of the final frontier seemed a formality, at the end of that Mumbai test match.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then of course the action shifted to Kolkata, and you had a situation where VVS Lakshman, he had not done very well in Mumbai, so he was a little insecure about his place, and he was batting in the nets prior to the Kolkata test, and he felt some sort of a pain in his lower back. And he went to Andrew Lepus, the physio, and he said that, Andrew, there's something wrong. Can you just look into it? Andrew Lepus just looked at him and said, VVS, have you seen yourself in the mirror? Just take a look at yourself. And what Lakshman saw was horrifying. He realized that the upper half and lower half of his body were not in sync. There was a problem. He had a slip disc and an issue. And he realized that this is big trouble because it means that he may not get to play the second test. And he has written in his autobiography that when he said to Andrew, Andrew, please tell me that you can get me ready for this game. Please tell me that I can play this game. And when he was saying that, he started crying. There were tears rolling down his cheeks. Andrew, please tell me that I can play this match. And Andrew just said that, yes, I'll do whatever I can. So VVS Lakshman played that match with a slip disc, and we all know what he did in that game. I mean, he turned Indian cricket upside down with that inning. So that is how it all began. Australia made 445 in the first inning, bowled us out for 171, and they enforced the follow-on. Shane Warne was not very happy about being asked to bowl again. He reckoned that, we have done very well in the heat, and it would be ideal to just put your feet up for a while, let the batsman go out. But Steve Waugh was very insistent, and he said that, no, let's finish it off, and the follow-on was enforced. And VVS Lakshman, who batted at number 6 in the first innings, scored an unbeaten 50. He was at 59. He was last out at 59. When he came into the dressing room, John Wright said, hold on, lads, do not take your pads off because you are going to bat number 3 in the second innings. They decided to swap positions between him and Rahul Dravid because Rahul was struggling a bit. In fact, Rahul also had viral fever going into that match. So that is how Lakshman came into bat at number 3 in the second innings. We got a good start because of Shiv Sundar Das and Sadagopan Ramesh. Sachin did not score many. Saurav put his head down and scored 40 odd, but then he was out, and then in came Rahul Dravid. And I distinctly remember when Saurav was going off the field and Rahul was coming in, Saurav just patted Rahul on the back, Whether that worked or it was just a coincidence, I don't know. But the third day's play was about to end at that stage, and Lakshman completed his second test century. So when the fourth day's play began, fine, Lakshman had scored a century, Rahul was there, but frankly, nobody really had any hopes. I remember saying to someone that, the Mumbai test finished in 3 days, this one will probably finish in 4. Nobody had any hope. But then what happened on the fourth day was out of this world. Lakshman and Rahul Dravid, they just batted and batted and batted and batted. And they batted for 6 hours. They lasted the whole day, and it was amazing. I mean, what an extraordinary turnaround. And as the partnership progressed, they were, of course, benefited by Steve Waugh's ultra-attacking approach because he had brought the fielding in. So that meant there were lots of gaps in the outfield. And with VVS Lakshman, John Wright had once said about VVS Lakshman that with VVS Lakshman, you know one thing, that if he gets a bad ball, the ball has to go for 4 runs. I mean, with VVS Lakshman, there is no other thing. You bowl him a bad ball, it has to go for 4. So that is what VVS Lakshman was doing. If you look at his innings, there was a fantastically high number of boundaries in that innings. Rahul completed his century, and probably the only time in his career, I think he made an animated gesture towards somebody in the press box. I think there had been a lot of talk about Rahul that he was good only against weaker opponents, but scoring a century against Australia when you're asked to follow on, I mean, it really can't get bigger and better than that. So Absolutely. They just went on, and then there was this situation where Rahul has always been a big sweater. He's sweated a lot, and he started cramping because of the heat and humidity, and he collapsed, during the course of that partnership. And John Wright yelled at Andrew Lepus, "Andrew, go out and get him ready, get him sorted." So Andrew Lepus ran in, and he said to Rahul that, "Rahul, I have this pill." It was a blue-colored pill. He said to Rahul, "Take this pill." So Rahul asked him, "What was it for?" So Andrew Lepus said, "It's an anti-cramping pill, so take it." Now, Andrew Lepus knew, and even Rahul knew, that there is nothing like an anti-cramping pill. It was just psychology, that, okay, do whatever, just do whatever you can, but get up and get going. So Rahul took that pill and probably convinced himself that, no, this is anti-cramping, and, I will not cramp henceforth. So, I mean, these are the kind of things that the champions do to, keep themselves going. And they had these towels that were, dipped in ice-cold water.
Red towels,
along their necks. So that is how they batted through the entire day, and the Australians were quite, frustrated. And Shane Warne had famously said later on that, he was standing at slip, and Adam Gilchrist was standing at, was obviously keeping wicket. And they were not used to this. I mean, imagine 16 test matches in a row you won, and suddenly this pair, not getting out. So apparently Shane Warne and Gilchrist, they went through their top 10 movies, their top 10 cars, top 10 supermodels, top 10 non-cricketing sports persons. So they had this, poll going on. Okay, so I like this person. What's your choice? To just pass the time, because they had never been in this situation before. And as many as 9 bowlers were used by Steve Waugh. Apart from Steve Waugh himself and Adam Gilchrist, everybody had a go. Ricky Ponting came on to bowl. Matthew Hayden came on to bowl, because they were not used to this kind of situation. And suddenly, India were ahead. The 5th day dawned, and people were saying, the experts, the commentators, they were saying that, you must declare immediately, because you've got a substantial lead of about 200, 250, 260. So declare overnight, try and win the match, take 10 wickets. But John Wright and Saurav Ganguly thought differently. The team went to Saurav's house for dinner that evening, and over dinner, John Wright and Saurav Ganguly, they discussed, what to do about the declaration the next morning. And John Wright said that, the Australians, they are champions. They are a champion side, and they have an ego. They have a massive ego. So they do not like to be in a situation where the only thing they can do is play for a draw. So you have to try and get them into a situation where, boss, you cannot go for a win. The only thing you can do is go on the defensive and play for a draw. So that is why we batted on for 1 more hour. Lakshman got out for 281. Rahul fell for 180. And then Harbhajan Singh and Zaheer Khan just swung their bats around. And we ultimately set Australia a target of 384 in 75 overs. Now, 384 in 75 overs on a 5th day wicket. No team would, fancy their chances of going for it. So the Australians also knew that, okay, the only option we have is to defend. And Australians are not known to defend. So that was also excellent psychology on the part of the Indian management, where they said that, we'll corner them and then we'll go for it. That is how it happened. And then at tea time, of course, the Australians were only 3 down. But after tea time, everything changed. And, Harbhajan got 2 wickets. Harbhajan, of course, had taken a hat-trick in the first inning. And then Harbhajan took 2 wickets after tea. And then Sachin. I mean, there's this fantastic footage on YouTube of Saurav throwing the ball to Sachin and, just doing this, 1 over. 1 over. And then Sachin, having failed in both the innings, Sachin had to do something. So what did he do? He took 3 wickets, not 1, not 2, but 3 wickets. So I remember Gilchrist got a king pair. So, imagine what a great leveler cricketer. Adam Gilchrist, centurion in the first test in Mumbai. Kolkata, first ball in the first innings, out to Harbhajan Singh. First ball in the second innings out to Sachin. A king pair after scoring a century. Then he got Matthew Hayden, and then Shane Warne of all people could not read Sachin's googly.
Googly.
So
Yeah.
that was amazing. And then suddenly Harbhajan came back, and we had, before we realized it, we had won that game. And it was only the third time in the history of Test cricket that a team had won a Test after being asked to follow on.
Follow on.
And
Yeah.
I have a feeling that one of the happiest people at the ground would have been Peter Willey, the umpire, because Peter Willey had played at Headingley, Leeds in 1981 when England had defeated Australia after being asked to follow on. Peter Willey had been in the England team, and here he was an umpire. So Peter Willey is the only person to have seen 2 of the 3 Test matches that a team won after being asked to follow on.
Follow on. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
then, of course, yeah, you were saying something?
No, this is such a great example of people who are true, or players who are true champions, to come from a background of adversity, whether it was at home or, physically not being in the best of a slip disc. With a slip disc, it's difficult to just move. Forget about playing in a test match,
Yes.
and getting those many runs, and just talks about, it's a testament to the commitment and, the sheer commitment of the player more than anything else, because we know that these are world-class players. They have the level of skill, they have the stamina to go through this, but going through that pain and being able to deliver such a performance, both Rahul Dravid.
I think the medical term for that is listing. Lakshman was listing before that. That is a term they use.
Okay.
So there was that a disc was grazing his nerve. So that used to pain. So imagine scoring 281, batting for 8 or 9 hours.
Absolutely.
Despite that condition, I mean, phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And same goes for Rahul Dravid as well. And there is not much to say for the master, because cricket is like, he is made up of cricket, I think, because one way or the other, he will always leave an impression on the game. So
Yeah. I mean, amazing.
Yeah.
And then they had to catch a flight to Chennai, and apparently the entire plane stood up and applauded as the team, entered the aisle of the aircraft. And then, of
Right.
course, the action shifted to Chennai for the decider. The Australians were obviously quite rattled by what had happened in Kolkata, but they got off to a great start in Chennai. They batted first, and they were doing pretty well at 340 for 3. It was a good score, good platform. Matthew Hayden was batting very well. So 340 for 3, and then Steve Waugh made the mistake of handling the ball, and he in the heat of the moment, the ball was about to strike his thumbs, and he used his right hand to ward it off, and obviously we appealed, and he was cleared out. Ricky Ponting fell at the same score, and then suddenly 340 for 3 became 391 all out. And then the stage was set in our first innings for Mr. Tendulkar to leave his stamp on the series as a batsman. He had already done that as a bowler at Kolkata, and then he came in Chennai and scored a century, 125, reaching his century with a 6. And we got a substantial first innings lead. And then Harbhajan, of course, was at the top of his game. You had,
Right.
he took 13 wickets in the second test at Kolkata, and then he ended up taking 15 wickets in the third test at Chennai. So he finished with 32 wickets in the 3 test series, which is a record. And then we had just 155 to win. So everyone was like, okay, this is it. What a fantastic, extraordinary comeback this is going to be. But the Australians, I mean, you give them an inch and they will put. But they'll take a mile, in fact. So we were coasting, 76 for 1. Ramesh and Lakshman batting very well. And then suddenly, I think that is also something mental. I think probably at some stage, I think the Indian team allowed itself to face the fact that, we are going to achieve something absolutely extraordinary,
Yeah.
And maybe they allowed themselves to get a little distracted. And that is where the Australians, being the Australian team, they just went in for the kill. And before you realize, 135 for 5, there was tension. And I remember at tea time, that was the score at tea time on the last day, 135 for 5. Samir Dighe, who was making his test debut. I mean, he was Mumbai's Ranji Trophy captain in that season, but he was making his test debut. He had come in. Lakshman was still going well at the other end. So we felt 135 for 5, just 20 more. With Lakshman there, Samir can, of course, bat. Sairaj Bahutule was there in the side. We thought that we'll do it. I mean, we still have a lot of batting. And I remember T happened, and then Colin Miller, who was known for, we called him Funky Miller. He used to
Pink hair.
Pink hair, blue hair. He was bowling, and he bowled this absolute rank long hop to VVS Lakshman. And Lakshman just went on the back foot and smashed it. I mean, he gave the ball the treatment it deserved. And the ball flew to mid-wicket, and you had somebody called Mark Waugh of all fielders standing there. Mark Waugh, probably the greatest catcher of all time. And Mark Waugh just put out his right hand and came up with a catch. And I remember Lakshman just, he froze. I mean, we all froze. What happened? What just happened? I mean, only Mark Waugh could have caught it. And unfortunately, he was the one standing there. Lakshman went, and then it was like, oh my God, what is going to happen? Then you had Sairaj going. And then there was serious tension there, that what to do. And you had Samir Vijay who was playing his first test. The Australians all coming in for a kill. And then this is where, again, the Khadus spirit of Mumbai came to the fore. I mean, this is a brilliant story where Samir Vijay, he realized, I mean, being a seasoned first-class cricketer and the captain of Mumbai, he realized that although Colin Miller and company were bowling, it was only a matter of time before Steve Waugh would bring back Glenn McGrath for the final burst, for the kill.
Yeah.
So he just took a chance, So you had Zahir Khan coming into bat, the number 9 batsman. And now Zahir Khan, of course, is also from Maharashtra. Zahir Khan had started his career in Mumbai. He then shifted to Baroda, later came back to Mumbai. So Samir obviously knew Zahir very well. So when Zahir came into bat, Samir could have spoken to him in Hindi, he could have spoken to him in Marathi. But Samir Dighe, for some reason, spoke to Zahir Khan in English. And he said to Zahir Khan in English, be a little careful against this Colin Miller, he's turning it. So just be a little careful. He shouted across the length of the pitch. Who knows? I mean, it could be a coincidence for all you know, but Steve Waugh gave Colin Miller one more over. And in that one over, Samir Dighe hit him for 2 boundaries. And 20 came down to 12, that massive psychological thing. So you don't know. I mean, that is how, I guess, so brilliant by Samir Dighe. And then, of course, we crept. Zahir Khan fell with 4 runs required. And then, it is very easy to say this with the benefit of hindsight, but, it was only fitting. It was only appropriate that, I guess, Harbhajan Singh was in the middle when the winning runs were hit, because he had, after all, taken 32 wickets in 3 test matches. Nilesh Kulkarni, who is currently my boss at IISM, he was number 11, and he told me that he had padded up, and obviously he was very nervous because wickets were falling. So you had Saurav going up to him and saying, Nilesh, ab tujhe hi karna hai sab kuch. Then somebody else went to him, Nilesh, abhi tujhe hi karna hai sab kuch. Then a third guy came in. Of course, then finally Nilesh said, everybody just get out of here. Let me just focus. He was very nervous. He said that each of his legs, he felt that each of his legs weighed about 100 kgs. But luckily, fortunately for him, he was not required to go out and bat, because the match ended by then. We finished winning on the winning side, and we won the Border Gavaskar Trophy. So it was a great achievement, a great series.
Absolutely. And I think all of us have had exposure to it from what we have read in the news or what we have seen on the television, but getting such insights from you, which otherwise I think we would not have had the benefit of, there are lots of things that happen when we watch games, but we are not privy to those. A lot of factors in the background that could affect the game one way or the other, right?
Yes.
A batsman or a bowler not being at their 100% can very much impact the effect on the game or the outcome of the game. But
yes.
Such resilience shown on the part of our team at that point of time. So to be honest, we were not really known to put up a very, very stubborn fight when it came to a very strong opposition. Right? We would cave in because we relied on only a couple of people to take us across the line.
It is important. Like Adam Gilchrist, for example, he made his debut in the second of those 15 test matches that Australia won in a row before coming to India. So the test match at Mumbai was his 15th consecutive win. His first 15 test matches he had won. Imagine 15 consecutive victories. So at Kolkata, when they lost, he did not know. I mean, he had never experienced that defeat. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine 15 consecutive wins. So that team was phenomenal. And yeah, I mean, what the Indians did. And it is also important to then see what happened subsequently, because I think that 2001 series influenced a lot of things. We started winning regularly abroad. If you look
Right.
at our performances in the 20th century, we played our first test in 1932. From 1932 to 1999, 67 years, we had won only 13 test matches abroad.
Oh wow. Okay.
A very embarrassing and a shameful record, I would say. There were
True.
some notable achievements in the 70s and 80s, but I think the 1990s was a decade where we spectacularly underperformed. I think given the
Right.
talent we had, we ought to have done much better. We were, of course, invincible at home in the
Yeah.
1990s, but when we went abroad, it would always be like, okay, Indian team, so Sachin Tendulkar and 10 other players. I mean,
Yeah.
that is how unkindly we were referred to.
Right.
But and of course, 1996, obviously, Saurav, Rahul, and Lakshman arrived on the scene, but they were not the finished product. I think the 2001 series marked the you could say the coming of age of these three
True.
cricketers.
True.
And of
True.
course,
True.
Saurav as captain was a big thing. I mean, he really revolutionized the way we were looking at our cricket. And there haven't been too many better man managers than Saurav, I would say. I mean, look at what he did to Zaheer in the
Yeah.
ICC knockout in Nairobi in October 2000. Zaheer made his debut for India. Now, in that playing 11, you had Venkatesh Prasad and you had Ajit Agarkar, who were technically senior to Zaheer because they had played for India before. But
Right.
Saurav played the new ball to Zaheer. Zaheer opened the
Right.
bowling. Now imagine
Right.
how his morale would have been boosted. That is how a captain peps up his team. And then you had Yuvraj Singh, who had earlier in 2000 he had won us the Under 19 World Cup in Sri Lanka under the captaincy
Right.
of Mohammad Kaif. At that stage, we did not know that Yuvraj Singh is going to win us two more World Cups. The
So true.
2021 in 2007 and the 2011 50 overs World Cup. But Yuvraj was our hero in 2000 in Sri Lanka. And then he came on, he made his debut in Nairobi and scored 80 odd against Australia in his very second match. So you have these two stars. And then, of course, Lakshman and Harbhajan Singh established themselves in the team. And very interestingly, there was a one-day series against Australia after that famous Test series. The first ODI of that series was played in Bangalore. And guess who won the Man of the Match award in that game? Somebody who scored and took 3 wickets. Someone who answered to the name of Virender Sehwag. So Virender Sehwag also made an impression on that tour by Australia to India. Unfortunately, he got injured and he did not play the remaining one-day games. But that was where we also saw a glimpse of Virender Sehwag's all-round abilities. So that period from October 2000 to March 2001, it saw the making of seven who went on to the future.
Right. Right. I lost you for a second over that, but I think what did you last say, Devendra? I want to listen to that again. What did you last say?
Yeah, so
I'm
what I
so
was
sorry.
saying is that the period from October 2000 to March 2001, that saw the advent of many cricketers who went on to do
Absolutely.
India proud in the years to follow. Because you had Zaheer Khan, you had Yuvraj Singh, you had Harbhajan Singh, you had VVS Lakshman, and then you had Virender Sehwag, who then joined the seniors, Rahul, Saurav, and Sachin, and Anil.
Right.
Others
Right.
been up.
Right.
So
Right.
a team was formed in that 2000-2001 period.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would like to, for a change, share an anecdote with you, which I don't think any of the players that I interacted with at that point of time would remember. If they saw this video, they may recollect. I'm not really sure. But it came to me when you said that Saurabh is an excellent man manager. He happens to be actually a great person as well. He wouldn't remember this, of course, but I was part of an ad campaign in 2003 before the World Cup uh,
Okay.
for a popular cold drink, and uh, they happened to need extras. So, which is where I came into the picture, and I went to Panvel, I believe, for a shoot for that soft drink, and we were just extras. We would be extras for anybody who was as tall as me. So I was an extra when they were showing Zahir Khan from behind, or I would be an extra for VVS Lakshman when they were showing him from behind, or when
You were the
Rahul
duplicate.
Dravid, duplicate, extra. So, or when Rahul Dravid and Harbhajan Singh jumped through the bushes to avoid the lion, I would be the extra for Rahul Dravid wearing the pads and jumping through. So we were just sitting, all, the 3 or 4 of us who were extras and duplicates for the players. And we were sitting at a tent, and the rest of the team was shooting. And I remember Dada just walking past us, and there is no need. We were nobody, right? He didn't need to ask us anything. So he went out of his way and he came over and he said, "Boys, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Are you all right?" And I was completely surprised because, here in India, cricketers have superstardom, and interacting with anybody is not really a usual thing. But to come, go out of his way and come and just ask us, how are you doing? Is everything okay? And that left a lasting impact. And the rest of the guys were, we had a lot of fun with them. They were very nice. They interacted with us. I remember, I know one of VVS's cousin used to work with me in the same organization.
Okay.
So I went and talked to him and I said, VVS, this is a friend of mine, Shaila. So do you remember? Oh, he said, hey, how's she doing and all of that. And so we were talking. I remember Mohammad Kaif had an injured thumb. So they were all very nice to us. And Rahul Dravid being the kind of person that he was, extremely quiet, but very, very pleasant at the same time. But Dada left an impact because he just, went out of his way just to ask us. Such a small thing to do, but if he did that for us, one can just imagine how much he must have done for that. What an impact he must have had on that team.
He deserves the lion's share of the credit because he was the captain, and of course, that credibility of Indian cricket, which was in tatters after what happened in the first half of 2000 with all those revelations and all the skeletons coming out of the, tumbling out of the cupboard. I think we will always be grateful to this batch of cricketers: Saurav, Sachin, Rahul, Lakshman, Anil, Harbhajan, for restoring the credibility and for making us fall in love with the game all over again. I mean, it is only in crisis situations where a leader's true mettle is tested. And I think our icons just rose to the occasion, and they dragged us out of that mess, and made us feel proud to be Indian. After all the negative events all the forgettable events that had happened in 2000. I remember. There was when the investigations were done, the CBI ordered a probe, and a lot of unnecessary stuff that came out was really it was really troubling because you as a cricket lover, you want to watch your cricketers in all their glory, and some
Absolutely.
names of course were tarnished for life. And interestingly, I have to bring this up. That report that the CBI prepared. It's out there in the public domain. You can access it on the net. If you have the time and inclination, I would advise all cricket lovers to read that report because a lot of it makes for very interesting reading. You get another perspective on what some people tend to do behind the scenes. And I will always remember that report for what I think, in my personal view, is the single greatest tribute that can ever be paid to a cricketer. And in this case, this tribute was paid to Sachin Tendulkar. Now, Sachin, we all know, Don Bradburn said that, he reminds me of myself, or a matchman once said that I have seen God. He plays at number 4 for India. So many people have, paid tributes to Sachin. But this particular CBI report features, it wasn't meant to be a tribute, I think, but a bookie. He told the investigators in his statement that the process of match fixing, would start only after Sachin Tendulkar got out because he was the only player capable of single-handedly, turning a situation inside out and upsetting our plans. I mean, can there really be a greater tribute to a cricketer? I mean, even the bookie were scared of him. Forget the bowler and opponent. I mean, that is just phenomenal. And yes, he led the way along with Saurav, Rahul, and the others, and they just made us feel proud to be Indian.
Absolutely. Thank you, Devendra. That was really, really enlightening, and I must say entertaining as well, because a lot of those facts are not known
Yeah.
to the public. We generally just, like I said, we get to see or we get to know what we watch and we read, right? So it's really great to have you come and talk to us and take us through those finer points in terms of the twists and turns of the game, the nuances, the small incidents that we did not know were happening in the background. I'm going to look for that report. If I find it, I will publish it
Please do.
as a link.
There is a lot of black comedy also, if you can call it black comedy, because you had a situation where the former South African captain, I will not name him, you all know whom I'm referring to, he assured a bookie that his team is going to lose a few matches. And that did not happen. They were to lose to us, to the Indian team of the time, but that did not happen. So that bookie lost a lot of money, and he countered. He confronted this guy that you had promised us that you will lose. So what happened? And this captain said that your team played so badly that we could not lose. It is sad. I mean, but that is, you can look at it as some sort of black comedy.
Absolutely.
And I would just like to sign off by saying one thing again, going back to Sachin, everybody says that, oh, he was a great batsman, but look at his record as captain and such a poor record. Now, you tell me one thing, what can a captain do if some of his players have other priorities? I mean, what can a captain do? So whenever you talk about Sachin's being not a very successful captain, you should always remember the period when he was captain of India and what was going on at that time. You had a couple of very prominent members of his team who had other priorities. So that should always be remembered. Not that it makes any difference. I mean, he played for India for 24 years. He was officially our captain for 2 years, but I think unofficially he was captain of India for 22 years. So
absolutely,
doesn't make a difference. But people who call him an unsuccessful captain should always take that other factor into account.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great, Devendra, thank you so much. I think that is also one last little gem that you have left us with. Thank you so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm sure the viewers as well. And I'm going to post this on the YouTube channel as always for those people who unfortunately could not make it live so that they can enjoy this conversation as well.
Sure.
Thank you very much for joining us again. And I look forward to our next session, hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Same here. I look forward to the next session. Thank you, everybody. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Take care. Stay safe and stay at home.
Stay safe.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.